Hi, and welcome to Origin of Concepts. Today we will explore the mystical Moai statues from Eastern Ireland. Those up there. The gigantic Moai stone statues on Eastern Ireland representing the divine ancestors or chiefs. The ancestors are not related to old family ties or earlier populations on the island, but are divine ancestors in the creation myth. The monuments are placed in the fields around the island, and some is placed side by side on ceremonial stone platforms to watch over their clans. Once their coral eyes were placed, the statues were considered living faces. Some Moais wearing red scoria topknots or the pukao. It's a red headdress which could represent hair or hats, but I'll get closer into that subject later. The real name of Easter Island is Te Pito o Te Henua, which is generally translated to the navel of the world, a name claimed to be reflecting the island's isolation. But I got a much better idea. The navel of the world is a romanticized translation, and it's not what it really means. The navel of the world should actually be understood as the navel of the womb at the end of the umbilical cord. And that's very, very important to understand the Rapa Nui people, the people living on the island. And then everything suddenly makes perfect sense and got a perfect match in the Milky Way center. So let's take a look at the Milky Way center. All right. The navel of the womb at the end of the umbilical cord is the Milky Way center, of course. And let me draw so you understand. The navel is, of course, the disk in the center of the Milky Way. And the womb is, of course, the black shadows here forming the womb. So this is the navel of the womb. And of course, we got the rope or umbilical cord, which is the striped shadow here. So that is what it means. This is what it's all about. And Easter Island also contains a round central stone known as Te Pito Kura, which means navel of light. And this stone is, of course, the navel of light, the golden light from the disk in the Milky Way center, which paint the entire Milky Way center red, like flames. Okay. And now what this video is all about, the Moai statues. And let me delete the board here, because now we get into the juicy stuff. The inspiration for the Moai design. The main inspiration for the Moai heads are visible within the cloud texture of the Milky Way center and is clearly visible for the naked eye. So let me show you the Moai statues or Moai heads in the Milky Way. I'll go zooming in here on a specific area. And I think this should be perfect, because the inspiration comes from these two spots in the Milky Way center. which led to the entire figure, which I'll draw in a moment. Because I believe that these two heads is the first inspiration for the head. And then they thought, okay, let's make the head like the Milky Way center. And that will explain a lot. I think this will be the perfect spot here, yeah. Okay. The eyebrows. Let me find the color here. The eyebrows are the area above the disc. So we could consider this as the eyebrows. And then they got a long nose. And this is the long nose, the striped shadow here. And then they got some very long ears, because that was the sign of the elder or the wise. They got long ears, and of course they got long ears because the Milky Way also got long ears. And then we get I'll wait with the head as the last thing. Because, no, let me draw it here. I think you can manage. The red hat is, of course, the Milky Way center here. They put on the head. And so here you basically got the main idea or the concept for the Moai head. And I got it all, yes. And then the Moais, they are buried. Most of them are buried to the neck, and now some of them are excavated, and they stand with the hands like holding their hands on their womb. And let's see where we can find that image. Because the folded hands holding the womb is visualized by the striped shadow holding the disc. So what they basically imagined was the striped shadow here, was the folded hands, or the hands holding. And it would look something like this. They got their hands like this, and this. So they are holding the womb or the navel in their hands, their stomachs, so to speak. And then this could be the shoulders. This shadow up there is the shoulders in many, many myths. So the Milky Way center is the face, but also used to visualize the hands holding the navel. Okay, so now you know where they got the inspiration for the design. So let's move on to the placements, because some of the Moai statues of the divine ancestors is randomly placed around the fields of the island, while others is lined up at the edge of the island, or should I say at the edge of the navel or the disc. And let me explain. The statues lined up in a row at the edge, they stand by the sea, is visualized by the striped shadow at the edge of the disc. And let me draw them here. This is the Moai statues lined up, the ancestors of spirit who lay the foundation for the island. And as I have told so many times before in my other videos, the striped shadow also represent or always represent tribes, crowds, bystanders, and so on. Crowd of people. The striped shadow also represents the 7 men sent out in a canoe by Hotomatua to explore the island. And Hotomatu is the chief king, or the legendary first settler or supreme chief of Easter Island. And let me show the 7 explorers in the canoe, because the great canoe in the sky is the Milky Way center. So here you got the 7 explorers in the canoe discovering the island. There you go. And let me see here. Yeah, that was it. The Hutu Matua, the king chief, is a character described on the disc here, and the striped shadow, like all other head or main characters in basically every single myth in the world, the manifested spirit guy. Okay, maybe I'll make another video about Hutu Matau or Matua. Okay, and then of course we got the randomly placed statues, which represent the randomly placed statues in the Milky Way center, which means the heads here. Here is one, and here is one, and maybe they soar more, but that's the 2 heads I can find who matches exactly the statues. Okay, the Rapa Nui, the people of Eastern Ireland, designed the island based on the center of the Milky Way, as most other ancient cultures also did. So there's nothing new under the sun. And that's it. Now you know where to find the origin of the Moai statues on Easter Island. Any comments? Write in the section below. And thanks for watching. And until the next video, take care. Bye.